I lost the stitches. So a quick intro. This is not part of my summer knitting plans or spring and summer knitting plans, but sort of an impromptu decision on my end. We are in Copenhagen. I finished my camisole number 4 by My Favorite Things Knitwear on the train down to Copenhagen, and I had brought my Gemma polo to cast on, but I only brought one skein of the main colour and one skein of the contrast colour, and I ran out of the main colour quite early, so I did go through my Ravelry page. I wanted something that is fairly easy because I want it to be a mindless knit. As you can tell, I'm quite stuffy still. I have a cold and I've had it for a few days now, so I want something that isn't necessarily complicated to knit. And in my favourites, I found the Feels Right Tee by Lily Kate France. It's a quite easy construction. I think it's cast on for the back, some short row shaping for the peaks of the shoulder, and then cast on for the front and join the round after the neck hole shaping, and then you do short rows for the sleeves, which I'm quite interested in trying. We went to a yarn store today and I picked up the Isager Bomulin, the cotton and linen mix. I'm surprised too that I chose a green yarn. This is a 65% cotton and 35% linen. It's 50 grams and it's 210 meters per skein, so I should have more than enough for that pattern. I brought my needle kit. This is because I wasn't sure if I needed to size up or size down for the Gemma polo, but my gauge swatch worked out with the recommended needles, so I didn't have to. Well, that's a lie. I actually had to size up half a size to a 5.5mm needle. But this limited the choice that I had, so the closest to the recommended needle size, which is 3.25mm, in this was a 3.5, so I will be making that work. I didn't bring a 3mm needle because they are home in another project. So this yarn with a 3.5mm needle, I'll be knitting the 3rd size. So in the next few days I will be knitting along on the Feels Right Tee, and I will check back in when I have another update. Fully recovered, non-stuffy Elizabeth from the future, here to do the voiceover. So after the trying days in Copenhagen, we went to visit my in-laws. The others went down to the water and I was feeling quite chilly, so I stayed inside by the windows. I had this lovely view and such a bright place to work. And when I came home and I got a bit better, my brother and nephews came to visit. They have such interesting things to tell me, or at least I think they must be interesting because, I mean, they are very animated in telling me, but I can't for sure say that I actually understand everything. I did get some calm days of knitting to finish the body, and this part was just very straightforward stockinette stitching. I was done with all the decreases for the body shaping, so this was a very mindless part. My beautiful cat, rest in peace, used to lie in the sun, and I call him Solkatt, which translates to sun cat, and that is coincidentally also what we call the prism reflexes in Swedish. So when he passed away, I hung up 2 prisms in the windows so he can come visit me in the sofa, and just like always in that clip, the sun cat lay on my knitting. That felt very lovely. Here I'm admiring the short row shaping that I did around the neck hole, and I went in to pick up stitches all around to knit in a 1x1 rib to have a neat neckline. I chose to do a non-stretchy bind off, that is knit one, lift the previous stitch over, knit one and lift the previous over, to keep the neckline from sagging and stretching over time. This being a cotton linen mix, I was afraid that it would lose its shape over time, and I want to be able to wear this for years to come, basically until it disintegrates from old age. I don't want it to lose its shape. The neck hole ended up being ever so slightly too tight, but it still works. I can get it over my head as long as I take off my glasses first. So although I hadn't finished the body quite yet, I went in to do the neck hole and the neckline because I wanted to see how much that would change the shape of the garment, so how it would hang, how long I would like the sleeves and the body to be. That would all be impacted by how snug the neck hole was. And I am such a ride or die fan when it comes to DPNs, because these cables, they make me crazy. Cables on a small circumference is hell. I don't like magic loop. It gets me ladders, and I don't like trying to fiddle around with the cable. Give me DPNs every day, all day. I just didn't have my 3.5s available to this specific project. Otherwise, that's what I would have done. And again, with the not using my actual knitting scissors for cutting yarn, either I break it with my hands, just rip it like a absolute heathen, or I just use my kitchen scissors apparently. Although I had my nice, pretty, cute little scissors just a few meters away. I tried it on at this point, having joined the round and knit a while and seeing how the neckline would affect everything, and it did ride up quite a bit, so knitting the neck hole was definitely a good move at this point. This project was such a light project to bring on all my trips. It doesn't take up much space and it's very easy to compress into a bag. Okay, so this is where we are at with the Feels Right tee, and honestly, I don't even know if I want the sleeves. I like this look. I would want it to be longer, and damn, I lost the stitches. That was my ankle, by the way. I'm 31, give me a break. Okay, so good thing this is a cotton, so it's a cotton linen, so it's quite stiff, so it's still sticking to itself, so the stitches won't run, but it's quite annoying. Anyway, I like the look, I like the colour, like the fit so far. I like that it's quite boxy. It's too short, my belly button is here. I want it to be at least, I don't know, 7 centimeters longer. So I think it's time for a mid-project block, because this is the first time I ever worked with this yarn, so I don't know how it will behave. So I will rescue the stitches and do a mid-project block to see how it fits. This, by the way, 2 balls of the yarn. So I was right in my estimation that I would have too much yarn with the 4 balls that I bought. Anyway, big fan so far. And you would think after all this footage of ASMR, wet blocking, mid-project blocking, I would give you an update on how it looked after the mid-project block, but no. Instead, I went down to my parents' place in the south of Sweden. I went to see some friends who are visiting their family home just once a year. They live abroad, and I got to see some amazing sunsets. I had some good food, and you bet your bottom dollar I took my knitting with me. I'm very happy with the fact that I don't get car or train sick. I just have to remind myself to take frequent breaks, especially with plant-based fibers like this that don't have any give to them whatsoever, because that's more straining on the hands, for example, than 100% wool would be. I knit the sleeve length to the point where I was happy and finished the sleeves with a simple non-stretchy bind off. I then sewed in all of the ends, which weren't too many at all, as I'd really only used a little under 3 balls of the yarn. And again, with the not using my scissors, even though I had them literally next to me in my sewing kit. Anyway, inspecting the length of the sleeve, very happy, pulling out my sewing kit, finding the right needle, and trying to thread this needle with the yarn was not very easy, to be honest. It was quite splitty, so this was like the third time I tried. But I always try to weave in the end of the yarn so that it closes the gap between the last and the first cast off stitch. So I sort of create a faux stitch, and look at me go with the scissors. So there we have it, the Feels Right tee. All in all, I'm very happy with it. As you can see, I wear it a lot. I wore it in Norway. I really like that it's such a compact item to pack. I can just squish it in wherever I want, and I can wear it to basically any weather, layer it, unlayered. It wears very well even when it's a hot day, so if I sweat it doesn't really show on it, which is very convenient on these scorching days. It washes really well either by hand or in the washing machine on a cold cycle. Very pleased with the results, didn't crease at all when I hung it up to dry. The main issue, as you might have understood from the rest of the video, is the pattern and how it's written. I understand that everyone makes editing mistakes, you can't keep every little thing perfect, but for a paid pattern, and especially from a quite a large designer, I expect a bit more than I was giving in this particular pattern. So the pattern itself works well, but it works well because I made it work. So the instructions, when they are unclear, or when the instructions are in the wrong spot, or when there's sizing, for example, the chart with the different measurements doesn't add up to what the measurements are then called in the text. So what is called A in the chart doesn't mean A in the text. The pickup rate for the armholes or for the neckline doesn't add up. That might also just be my size, the third size, but there were a bit too many things that I had to think myself, and that's not what I had envisioned when I got the pattern. The pattern itself is quite easy to follow, the logic is quite easy to follow. So I would take a screenshot of the page I was working currently and then just highlight the numbers that were applicable to my size. And then I would basically not have to go back and look at the pattern very often because it was such an easy project. So the decreases for the body, they are at regular intervals and they are done the same way. After the short row shaping, it's very basic for the shoulders. The the sleeves are also very basic in the instructions. They do flap out a bit, which is completely my own fault because I didn't follow the instructions as they were written. The pattern calls for a decrease, like a bit of a puff here, but I didn't want that, so I omitted it. It could also be mitigated by knitting a rib on the cuff of the sleeve, but I didn't want that either. So this is how I wear it. One other thing that I thought was odd was that the pattern pictures, as they are given to us on the Ravelry page, they don't actually show how the pattern is written. They show a modified pattern. So the designer, she states that she modified the proportions because her torso is longer than other people's. So her pictures don't align with what the actual finished garment looks like if you follow the instructions. And I suppose that could be a good thing. It could also be a weird thing. I mean, it's good if she modified it to look as it would look on other proportions or the standard proportions, but I, I, I feel it's a bit strange, maybe. Because if she adds so much, it changes the proportions. How does the sleeve look in proportion to the rest of the body? Stuff like that would change. Good things about the pattern is, as I said, it's very easy to follow if you're not an absolute beginner, because you need to be able to figure some things out on your own. But the repetitions and the increases and decreases, they are very easy to follow the logic of, at least for the third size. I really applaud the size inclusivity. So it goes from a bust circumference of 71 centimeters to 157 centimeters, which is a huge range. It does have a few centimeters of positive ease, and I haven't seen too many of the bigger sizes represented in the pictures on Ravelry, so I couldn't tell you how the proportions actually look on bigger bodies, but the proportions for a size 3 I think are good. I knitted a bit longer myself, but I don't want a super cropped fit, and I have a bit of a longer torso than my bust circumference would have you think. So the finished project for myself is a hit. I did a very non-stretchy bind-off for the collar, for the neckline, and it's good in the fact that it doesn't stretch out. This keeps its shape and I really like it. Even if I worn it, even if it got wet and I've been tugging at it, it keeps its shape. It's a bit too tight, so I have to take off my glasses and have to be careful not to lose my earbuds if I wear my headphones in. I might lose one if I take it off or put it on when I'm wearing it, but otherwise it feels good when I'm wearing it. It doesn't tug, it doesn't snag. It's a good fit. The sleeves also a bit strange, but not strange enough for me to care at this moment. I might go in and do something about them. It was a very quick knit to do the short row increases, and I could either do the short row increases more seldomly, or I could stop with the increases at this point and just knit in the round. Then it would stand out like this and not be as free in the armpit. So that is one option I could change. I ended up using 3 balls, basically just under 3 balls of the Bomulin. So that would be around 600 something meters, just under 150 grams, so maybe 140 grams. So will I knit this again? I think so, because I have the pattern, I paid for it. It's a very basic pattern and I think it's very modifiable to suit any need that I have for basic tee. I think I would want to knit it in a bit of a thicker yarn, so maybe my scraps of Knitting for Olive merino. Yes, the thin merino. I have some scraps of, so I might knit something out of those. What I would modify, as I said, I might play around with the sleeve shaping. I might play around with how the neckline is formed. What I have noticed is that the back pulls down and the body, the front rides up a bit. So I might add some more rows in this portion to balance it out. I have a very straight posture and I tend to lean back a bit, which can make clothing fall a bit off for me. So for example here, the decreases, they are not straight down, but they actually tilt forwards. And that for me means that either I need to add more fabric here, or I need to decrease the stitches for the back and increase in the front, so the middle of the garment actually folds in the middle of my body. So that's something I might play around with. I might actually also make a version for my partner in this, because if you omit the decreases for the waist, it seems to be a very unisex pattern. I've seen people of different genders wear this on Ravelry and I think it looked really good on them. Omitting the puffy sleeves makes it more unisex in fit. So I might do that, but that is a project for future Elizabeth. Now I have some fun autumn and winter knitting plans that I am very happy to start with. So thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, please do like the video. And if you want to, please do consider subscribing to my YouTube channel so you don't miss my future uploads. I think next up is a vlog, my Norway vlog. The knitting I did, the yarn stores I visited, and I will also be giving you a yarn haul of the kilograms of yarn that I bought in Norway, which I do have plans for and which are part of my budget, so it's not a spending spree without any thought of consequences. So stay tuned for that. Leave me a comment if you found anything worthy of commenting, ask me a question, and let's get chatting. I hope you have a great day. Take care.